Good morning, everyone. Happy January 17th. It is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and we are here with Faith.Family.Focus. I am your co-host, Faith Suggs, former Duke women's basketball graduate and currently CEO and founder of my company, Brand by Faith, a social media and digital branding company dedicated to telling the story of our clients. This wonderful man next to me is my father, Schaefer Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals, and also has served as VP and on the executive board with the RPFPC, the NFL former players of Chicago.
The retired professional football players of Chicago.
Well, then you guys are also the NFLPA former players Chicago chapter. So yes. It's just, yes, it's year two. But good morning. Did you guys get hit with this winter storm? What's the news?
No, it looks like it's getting ready to do something right now, but it's mostly on the East Coast.
Okay. Right. Well, I knew it came. It just missed us and had gone to Kansas City. I wouldn't have minded some snow. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Share the show. It's a happy day. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
That's Happy Martin Luther King Day?
Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It's right on the screen.
It is.
What a day. Got my tea. What is new? Are you hitting with a cold front? Like, where are we in January with the weather around the Midwest?
Well, I think we're fortunate. We were talking about in December, right around Christmas, we knew that this day would actually come, and right in the meat of it. If you saw the news this morning, you could see how much snow in the Northeast, and actually in Carolina, where you used to go to school, Greensboro,
Alabama,
East Coast got really hit hard. So let's pray that some of those people don't get. A lot of it is adapting to the weather if you're not used to it. I was driving on Friday out. I was out for a little while, and it was amazing how many people were in ditches.
Well, yeah. Even driving here, we got snow on Saturday, midnight and up, right? So it was here when we woke up. And, some people don't know that you can't drive up a hill if you don't all-wheel and four-wheel drive. So you saw a lot of people going up and coming right back down. Good morning. Good morning.
Especially if they're in the stick shift, man. That's even more stressful.
I'm telling you, people have no idea how to drive in the snow, and that's okay, because I don't think I even know how to drive. I never try to get too cocky with driving in the snow, because you never know.
Right.
You really don't. Like I was going 10 miles per hour. I wasn't braking. I was keeping a nice pedal. I didn't want to swerve. And now I hit the end of that hill, and I just kept going.
Yeah.
Oh, no, surrender to the ice. But yeah, I'm a little jealous that would you think this is your cold? We've had some cold Januaries. It's supposed to be 6 degrees here on Wednesday. And every time I think about that, I think about how in Chicago you get that off the lake cold front.
The lake effect, yes.
Yeah, and I think that I can survive Antarctica.
No, you're not going to be able to survive. I know my daughter. I know you in the cold, and you in Antarctica will not.
I'm not bad in the cold. I actually thrive in the cold. The only issue is I have cold-induced asthma that we gave us genetically. But no. And I've been watching a lot of documentaries recently. That's why I said Antarctica, because our ice is shrinking and the polar bears are running out of land. But I think the winter feel, January to February, where there's not a lot of holidays. Of course, there's a holiday on February 3rd, my birthday. And then we have the Super Bowl on February 13th. And then we're right into Valentine's Day. So January, once it gets out the way, I tell you, it's a boring month.
You just can't wait to get to your birthday. It's February 3rd.
I can't wait to get to my birthday. But
you're going to be 25 years old. Okay, you're going to be a quarter of a century. Yes. Wow. Goes fast.
That makes you how old?
Don't worry about that. So let's pivot really quick. Let's talk about that big win for K-State against
Texas Tech.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I want to talk about in general. I want to talk about, yes, they beat Texas Tech, who had just recently beat Kansas and Baylor. But let's talk about how much of a crap show college basketball is right now with rankings. You can't rank anybody. Everybody's beating everybody on the women's side, on the men's side. it's just like you have no idea who's gonna. This year's tournament is gonna be so fun.
A lot of
It's
parity.
fun. Yes,
A
because
lot of parity.
and that's that, and probably that, like we talked about last Monday, it's probably that transfer portal. It's
Transfer
probably the
portal.
transfer portal.
Yes. Right.
Because now everybody has the ability to recruit these older athletes, but also they can mold the team to what they want it to be.
Right.
In an instant.
It's every year there's an opportunity to redefine your team because of the transfer portal. It's making a tremendous impact. Love the show that you had on Friday with Shane Southwell, the assistant coach there, also your boyfriend. I was really, I got a chance to watch it again, and I was, this is a show for another day, but just his passion for the Harlem Renaissance and the history was pretty amazing. I would love listening to that.
Yeah, and we had a great show in the past with, I think it was Reggie.
Yes.
And how his
Reggie Williams. It was Reggie Williams. Yeah, he wrote the book, the Black Renaissance.
Yeah, and studying Harlem Renaissance. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Harlem Renaissance. Yeah.
And it's hard not to, and this could be a good segue into talking about, this wonderful day of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I'm going to shorten it to MLK Day because I don't want to keep saying it. But it's an amazing day because, each of us all had different forms of, growing up in this education system and American education system and what we learned. And, when you were growing up, half the stuff you were living is what I was taught, right, growing up. And that's the beauty of, our like experiences and giving different experiences. And, when we talk about Shane's show on Friday with the huddle and hearing his experience growing up and what he learned, right? In the mecca of, Black history, right? Where the Harlem Renaissance flowed, New York, Chicago, right? It was very much those places and just, learning about how everybody's perspective is different for history, right? Northern history, they learn more than what we learn in Midwest history, right? And Midwest history learns completely different than what the West Coast history learned in the Southern. And then you got Texas. In Texas, they're learning a whole different book of American history. And so it's just amazing when we have guests like that. And we had Reggie Williams, we had Shane Southwell, and we had amazing guests to talk about their own experiences with studying Black history, Black culture, Black language, Black, all the stuff that comes into Black American history. It's very interesting to see everybody's different perspectives and experiences on what American history is through their eyes. And it's just each opportunity you're learning from somebody in some sort of way.
Right. No, you're so correct. And it's interesting with the death of the great Sidney Poitier, and he talked about in his documentary his time that he spent and the impact that Harlem had on his life and his acting. So just wanted to kind of share that, in the celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Day and the impact, obviously, that he's had on all of our lives. But you asked me about the impact that he had on my life, and it was just amazing because I got a chance to see him for the first time. And I always talk about one of my favorite quotes is, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness; only light can do that." And I remember at the age of 13 and seeing him for the first time, I knew that he was truly the brightness for this world, and the impact that he has had on my life was the inspiration that I needed to never allow hate to destroy my dreams.
Yeah. And it's interesting and it's beautiful because we'll talk about this as we dive a little bit more into the story. It's just and I have a couple great photos. Here's one thing I love about Martin Luther King Jr. And I find these, but I love finding photos from back during that time period. We're watching that far ago, right? Well, except it's 2022 now. We blinked and it's already 2022. But finding photos like that back in the day in color, and how in American history, a lot of the civil rights movement that we study and a lot of the Martin Luther King coverage and Malcolm X coverage and, just studying these key leaders in the civil rights movement, they kept it all in black and white. And we know why they kept it in black and white. They wanted to make it seem like it was so long ago, but it wasn't so long ago, right? The civil rights movement basically just happened. And we're still dealing with repercussions and fighting through for justice and peace and equality and equity for all. But finding these photos like this one, in color with his kids, and then it's just so.
That's an amazing, beautiful picture.
right? It's just so beautiful when you can find them in color. And there were some amazing ones that circled the internet last year, just him and Coretta on vacation, I think in Cuba in color. And those were just so, but this one right here is one of my favorites.
Yes, that resonates with me. You get the little baseball bat, teaching his son how to hold the baseball bat. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a beautiful picture.
Yeah. But, everybody's experience with learning. Good morning, Jealous. Wish we were in Fort Myers Beach.
Yeah, I was concerned about him really quick, but we'll jump back on Martin Luther King, but they got really bad weather down. They get tornadoes.
Well, they have tornadoes in Florida.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the end of the world.
Hope you're doing okay, Buford.
Well, not even that, but that tsunami. I don't know if you saw the tsunami, the volcano that blew up underwater. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. It's just so amazing with everything that's going on right now. But good morning, everyone. Good morning, Buford. But we love talking to everybody, so say hello. But, today is Martin Luther King Day, and we're just discussing how amazing it is that now we have these photos from back then that are in color. And then your experience with, you were able to, really witness the impact Martin Luther King had on your life. And it was just really amazing to get that perspective, right? You're our own historical book, right? We can bounce ideas off you, can study you, but also my generation now, which is amazing, has found ways to kind of put the message of Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement along with, Malcolm X and other great, amazing Black leaders. And we're able to kind of teach that part of history without making the history compete against one another, which is something that we always want to do, right? We want a good guy and a bad guy. But I think that it's even when we talk about W.E.B. Du Bois, right, in Booker T. Washington, we always want to put these leaders against each other. But it's amazing now in today's society as we're learning more, we're reading more, we're creating more documentaries, and we're studying it more in depth. We're able to kind of really celebrate these leaders the correct way and really teach the next generation.
Oh, right? It's my cousin.
Good morning. Good morning. And everybody, Buford is doing well. Tornado was 8 miles north.
Okay, thank God.
For those of you who don't know, Buford is the founder and designer.
Sponsor.
Thank you. I was kind of the designer, but the sponsor of our Suggs mugs, and he came up with this right here, Suggs mugs. We didn't really have a founder, though. They just kind of came to us. It was a great idea. Good morning, everyone, though. But yes, once again, it is Dr. Martin Luther King Day, an amazing day for us to reflect. So you gave your favorite quote, which is one that everybody uses. I'm not calling your quote basic because it's still a touching, amazing quote, Dad. But this is my favorite, where true peace is not merely the absence of tension. It is the presence of justice. And that one to me is so important, even in today's society, right? Giving all people the access to rights and good health care and non-discriminational work systems. And good morning, everyone. Good morning. I just think that it's just an awesome quote. And feel free to share your quotes, your favorite Martin Luther King quotes along the show. Everyone comment. We really like to hear them. Everyone has a different perspective.
Yeah, everyone, if you're viewing, please share your favorite Martin Luther King quote. Yes, that's a good idea, Faith. Thank you.
Thank you for repeating me. But yes, that is my favorite one. And you want to know why? Because true peace is not merely the absence of tension. And that's what I feel like that was once the goal, right? In general, we just wanted to have equality. We just wanted the opportunity to even get interviews, right? We wanted opportunity. But now I feel like not only is it's the peace is the absence of tension, what we're seeing is now people are demanding, okay, now we have peace. Now let's get equity and justice for all. Let's get this opportunity. Let's pass these laws. So we're just watching the evolution each year. We get to reflect on Martin Luther King's dream and his story and his life and his livelihood. And it's just amazing how we're doing so. I was about to say we're doing so well. We're doing better as a nation and creating opportunities for everybody. And it's just really nice to reflect on. Nice optimistic viewpoint of it all.
Yes.
But yeah, amazing. I mean, Dad, I do want to ask this story. What is your favorite Martin Luther King moment? And it could be sad, it could be positive, but in your lifetime, whether it's with, grandma and grandpa, anything like that, what is the one moment that sticks to you that maybe I don't know about?
And I know you're asking me because you love the story. My mom woke me up and said we were going to go to Notre Dame. Of course, at that time, Notre Dame football was the biggest thing in the world. and we were going to go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I grew up in Elkhart, Indiana, which was actually about 15 minutes west of Elkhart. And so we get in our little station wagon with the wood paneling on the side, and we drive over to Notre Dame. And just so happened, Martin Luther King was speaking at the Stephen Center. And we couldn't get very close, but we got out, and I got a chance to get on top of the station wagon. I saw him get out of the limousine. And for the first time in my life, I saw the Dr. Martin Luther King. And I can remember that like it was yesterday. And that was my favorite Martin Luther King moment, just having a lens to get a chance to see him from afar.
You know what's great about your generation is you guys physically had access to those moments in history, right? And I know one day my kids are going to be like, wait a second, you were there when people were, I don't know why this is but storming the Capitol or this or that, all those things we're going to talk about in the future, right?
Yeah.
And it's just physically having you here and able to tell those stories is just as impactful as you seeing Martin Luther King on that day. And it's just, we're so lucky to still have that, right? And but it's also perspective. Martin Luther King wasn't that long ago, folks. So
you know what? Even more impactful for me is how much you, particularly you, my daughter, even Devin, really embrace those stories. They embrace them. You embrace them. You just, and that's kind of the way I was. I would sit next to my grandmother when she was telling stories, and she was listening to boxing on the radio or baseball on the radio, and she would just tell these stories about, Joe Louis and Jackie Robinson, and Mark, this just those stories, and that's why I just, when you ask me these questions, and a lot of the time I have to really go back and reset about how much I have actually been blessed to be able to experience this in my life.
Yeah, you should write it down. I've told you this a million times. You have to write these moments down. You know what I mean? You'd have to get a journal. You have to write these moments down because you don't realize how important your experience is towards, your future great grandchildren who, you're kind of old now, but hopefully you get to meet them. I love you. But in the long time future, right, is you think about like, when you talk about Ma and you talk about like your family members who I never got to meet, but the experiences they had as not just, people in America, but Black people in America, those stories are transcendendable, right? They're important. They belong to be passed down. So just having the opportunity to write them down, I tell you, write them down. Stop wasting time.
Yeah. I want to say something too. Very important, during this time that not only the African American generation, but the white generation that finally have, with the Floyd situation, what has happened the last couple of years, are finally getting a lens on this.
Yeah.
And people that in my life that I've met are finally saying, "Oh my God, I want to watch these movies. I want to watch Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. I want to watch all these Sidney Poitier movies." And it took something like this, right, to kind of bring a lens on people that have really wonderful hearts, but up until that point, if they had not met me or they had not met this had happened, they still would not have a lens on understanding really what our lives are like and the struggle that we have experienced in our life. And it's just amazing that there's still, and we're talking about, the resistance to teach Black history, the resistance to teach. What's that term again?
Critical race theory.
Critical race theory is so important, and the resistance to that is just, to me, it's criminal, because it does give all people an opportunity to still really see history the way it is.
Yeah.
And give an understanding of why Martin Luther King's dream is so dang important.
Right. Why Martin Luther King's dream was important. Why Malcolm X's voice was important. Right. And what's interesting is one thing that I have found is difference is so beautiful, right? Each difference between each of us individually is something that's amazingly once in a lifetime, right? You're different from me. I'm different from you. I'm different from so-and-so. I'm different from so-and-so. Every person you meet in life, it cannot be just like you. And we should celebrate those differences, right? And so, yes, that's another thing, right? Is it when we learn to embrace difference, right? And understand that difference isn't exactly something we should avoid. You somehow find a way, okay, that affects somebody I love. Let me learn how it affects them. What can I do to diminish the pain? What can I do to diminish discrimination? What can I do? Did I say something wrong? Why did I say something wrong? How did I say something wrong? How can I be educated on what I said wrong? Right. And it's not easy for a lot of people because it's hard for a lot of people are 45 plus and now learning I was doing things wrong. Right. Trust me, every year we learn we did something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody.
It's the whole part about, first educating, healing, educating, forgiving, and going on, right? So that's the process. The guilt doesn't necessarily have to immobilize you, and because it didn't happen but you're allowing yourself to perpetuate that when you don't acknowledge it and understand it, right? Yeah. So
you are doing yourself an injustice, and this is all people. This is not one race. You are doing yourself an injustice by not educating yourself daily.
Yeah.
Right? If there's something you do not know, learn. Right? It doesn't even have to be about something as influential and impactful as race and culture, ethnicity. It can very much be, when is the last time you read a book? Because what you don't realize is that literature, language, and movie documentaries, they give you a pulse of what's happening around you.
Yeah.
This is one thing I want to do. A couple years ago, Becky and I actually stopped by Lorraine Motel where MLK was assassinated. What's a real feeling? One of the favorite quotes from him was, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase." Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yes. And that's another thing we talk on, and then eventually we'll transition a little bit into what we're talking about, which is, once again, learning to understand everybody's perspectives and cultures and everything is different, and learning to embrace that for them. Trust me, that'll come up in our next conversation. But one of the things that we don't have to feel the pressure on is you don't have to constantly educate people and correct people and try to walk them through it, right? If you want to, 100%, please do so, right? But also living your life the correct way, right? Stopping injustice, right? Before it has to transcend into a bigger conversation, right? I've been at dinner tables. I've been corrected it with microaggressions. I've had these experiences, but, right? You keep living your whole truth. You keep having these conversations with others who are willing to listen. You keep having, encouraging others to maybe, hey, read this book. I loved this one. Maybe you should like this, right? Or watch this documentary. You might like this. Or watch this movie. You might love it. And let me know what you think about it. Those type of conversations are important. And I think that's the best way to kind of celebrate this day as well. There's a couple great books and documentaries you can catch that'll kind of help you kind of understand not just the impact of Martin Luther King, but the entire impact of the civil rights movement.
Right. The 13th was
13th one. Selma is rough. Selma's rough. I don't know if I would have been walking, but Selma's rough. Selma's rough. But that's just one that it's just beautiful to kind of put in front of us something a lot of us didn't get to witness.
Well, so your point is Selma was rough. I mean, for a person, African American, are who we are, to watch that, how difficult it is to watch it.
That's what I was talking about.
It is really hard to watch.
That's what I said. I don't know if I would have been walking. It's just, you don't understand the courage. Like, they knew what they were walking into. That's the most like eye-opening moment of it all, right? I don't know what that is. That's bravery, but that's also
sacrifice. That just magnifies the courage and the impact that Dr. Martin Luther King has had on our world, for him to show the world, the sacrifice that we will make.
Yeah.
Was that that was your favorite, right? Too, right?
That was Buford's. I really love that one. I love that one. But a lot of the great quotes come from a lot of his great speeches. And there are a couple books out there that you can read that you can get all of Dr. Martin Luther King's sermons. in if you guys want to look for them. They're on Amazon. I actually had to tell people about them yesterday. But what a beautiful, I mean, it's just a wonderful, loving day. And what a great segue, because I do want to talk about, one of the things you can do today when we talk about Martin Luther King, one of the things that we're learning in the year of 2022 is that everybody's opinions are different, right? Everybody has a different perspective, right? And what we're learning in 2022 is how to move around everybody having an opinion, everybody having a different perspective, everybody with a different criticism, right? We all have different status quos, right? And I think that it's hard. It's probably harder than it once was, because now, because of freedom of speech, because of social media, because of, just blatant, everybody has a podcast also, right? Everybody can voice their opinions. Everyone can voice their perspective. And it's a good segue to transition into a topic that is full of everybody has their own opinions and their own perspectives. One thing that came to my mind when I was thinking about this topic is I was watching TV and I was watching, everybody, like I said, has a talk show. I don't know if it was Get Up or one of the First Take, one of the two. And they were talking, it was right before the bowl games were happening for the football NCAA championships. And all these bowl games are coming, right? And we're starting to see these seniors and juniors opt out of playing in the college football playoffs, their bowl games, whatever it is, last game of the season. Why do they do that? Because you have the opportunity to get hurt in these games, right? And what is on the other side of that game? The NFL draft, right? Your next steps, millions of dollars, signing bonuses, right? Endorsements, even though you could get endorsements at NIL in college. All this is on the other side of those games, right? So we're going to take it back in this discussion. So historically, what all of you don't know is the All-Stars. Dad, you can give us a little perspective on this, but there was an All-Star game back in the day, 1970s, that area.
Well, 1940, it started from 1940 to the last game, 1976, and it was when the Super Bowl champs and the college All-Stars played. And so that was one of the bowl games that I got a chance to play in, and it was the biggest game. And, the game was actually played at Soldiers Field, and the one year that the college All-Stars actually won the game was against the Packers. And I remember Vince Lombardi being very upset, but I got a chance to play. And unfortunately, it happened to be the last game I ever played for a couple of reasons. One, the game rained out, as you will see. And two, one of the reasons that the game was not as popular because a lot of the college football players decided they didn't want to play because they didn't want to get hurt.
Right. Because why would you not want to get hurt?
You don't want to jeopardize the money that you make in the NFL, right? So, right.
I actually have the video of, and you can kind of give us your memory of this, and I thought this would be cool for some of our viewers.
This is the final part of the game at Soldier Field. You can see it's raining.
And now Gaines is in there with Tommy Raymond. This is Raymond.
And you see the Pittsburgh Steelers at this time. Terry Henry in the game. Here I am, number 35 to the right. Rocky Blyer. Is that Rocky Blyer? No, it's not.
So you can count how far away it is by the number of seconds it takes to get here.
So that's the rain. It's coming down in sheets. It's unbelievable.
All-Star game.
This is the college All-Star game in 1976 on July 23rd.
Our producer.
And so tell me how you got selected for this game.
The best college players in the country will play this game. You play the college All-Stars.
So it was an honor.
Third down and score.
So these are you're playing against.
Oh, yeah, here's the play right here.
And he dribbles butt off. Picked off. Picked off there by number 35, Schaefer Suggs. Schaefer Suggs from Ball State. The Jets' second-round draft pick picks off Hanratty.
So you already drafted by this point.
Hanratty rolling to the outside. He looks like he can make it.
Why in hell? Why in heck were you guys playing this game?
And Suggs is right there to make
I'm sorry, this is an amazing opportunity. You look awesome. It's not the right number. But you guys are already drafted at this point.
Right. But a lot of players did not want you can go ahead and turn it off, because the game after about 2 or 3 more plays, the game is actually stopped, and then eventually because of the rain, people came on the field, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, they decided that we're not going to ever play this game again. So it was the last time the game was ever played. But a lot of guys, there was a few guys that did not play in that game because they did not want to jeopardize getting hurt their career. So yes,
it does not make sense to me. Maybe because I grew up in a different generation, but it does not make sense to me. Do you know how quick an ankle can move from pick number 3 to pick number 15? Right, and
so,
the paycheck difference between pick number 3 and pick number 15.
The second day of practice, I pulled my groin muscle, and I remember the general manager told me not to practice anymore for the rest of the week. Because he didn't want to jeopardize. Fortunately, I waited about 3 more days.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I don't know if you have the video of Herb Street making his comments. I think, which will segue into the.
Here they are.
Money, the amount of money, like what's the difference as a player in saying these games are meaningless when we played in quote unquote meaningless games? I mean, I know you guys were here a lot, but I just don't understand, if you don't make it to the playoff, how is it meaningless to play football and compete? Isn't that what we do as football players? We compete. So I don't know if changing and expanding it is going to change anything. I really don't. I think this era of player just doesn't love football.
Oh, that's what I was about to say. We're dealing with a total different mentality when we're dealing with these student athletes nowadays, especially the football players. I mean, their whole mentality right now is about the championship, the playoff. We got to get into the CFB or the CFP. And because of that, they don't value the bowl games. Now, when we were coming up, Herb Street and myself, like, to go to a bowl game was a huge reward for a fantastic season. That's what it meant. It's like, okay, your team played this well, so you're going to be rewarded by going to this bowl game. You're going to get a ring. You're going to get swag. Now, kids don't really care about that. They have a sense of entitlement. And it's like, if we're not going to the one that matters, then, it just doesn't have as much value to them as it did us growing up.
I think
I got a lot to say.
You know what, Faith? It just baffles me. It just baffles me that these and you know what? Both of those announcers play football. I don't understand it. Not being able to understand that it's a different day. Economics are so much different. I just struggle with it. I'm really so glad that you pivot toward this topic, because it shows you how different the players and the opportunity the players have. And we still have announcers that just don't get it.
Don't get it.
They don't get it. That's all.
Same announcers that said these kids shouldn't get paid for NIL.
Exactly.
Right? These are the same announcers probably said to take out the transfer portal. Here's what I took. I wrote notes down because that's the first time I actually really watched it. I only had bits and pieces through Twitter when I saw it. And please, everyone, give me your thoughts on it as well, because I may be wrong. I may be biased in my generation, but I don't think I am. First, he said, in our generation, going to a bowl game was, a great thing. First of all, do you know how many bowl games are there now?
Yeah, there's a down the street bowl game. There's around the blocks bowl game.
The Doritos, the Tostitos,
the 7-Eleven bowl game.
Okay, there's more than 15 bowl games probably, right? Everybody gets a bowl game. Okay. In my time at Duke, actually, Duke football got 2 bowl games, 2 or 3.
And you don't have to necessarily have a successful season to be in a bowl game anymore.
How was Rutgers in a bowl game this year? How were they in a bowl game?
So the point is
lower than 5th.
Yeah. So I get it.
Okay, so here's what I want to say about the bowl game situation. Yes, you're correct. Going to a bowl game wasn't a major honor during the time you played. It's not anymore. Okay? It's not, right? It's very much stemmed around probably financial and economic growth for the universities, right? I guess we can say it's viewership for players who want to get to the draft, but they don't have enough film. Cool. And it's also a game for the seniors who maybe didn't get to play for 4 years. Now the seniors are going to go get picked number 6 in the NFL draft and get a signing bonus, probably $1.2 million. Okay, it's not that. It's no longer a sense of honor. It's more kind of like, hey, we get this 100%, but your generation made it. So there were 15 to 20 bowl games for these kids to get an opportunity. Like I said before, Rutgers should not have been in a bowl game this year. That's and this is no like shots at Rutgers, but it's shot at the fact that we don't have the bar high enough for bowl games.
Right. So let me say this: that one kid that plays for Rutgers and has a chance to play in the NFL draft, why would he play in that meaningless game? Right.
Wow.
But
And
Rutgers is playing in that game because that they're going to get a lot of money from NBC, ESPN, right?
Man, do people know how much these? Okay, you get a lot of money when you get to play in a bowl game, and that's why we created the bowl games, right? All of this is a business. It's for economic growth of the university or organizations. The money goes in the coach's pockets. If a coach gets into a bowl game, they get a bonus. People, right? Each person on staff in their contract has it. If we make a bowl game, we get a bonus of $25,000. $50,000, $5,000. And this is not just football. This is college basketball as well. You make it to the tournament, you get a bonus. Each level you get in the tournament, you get a bonus. And the bonus keeps getting bigger, just like in the NBA.
Do the players get a bonus?
The players do not get a bonus, but they get a swag bag. That's what he said. They get a swag
bag. Right, a swag bag.
Secondly, this is
watch.
A watch. First of all, I have like 70 watches from the NCAA tournament that don't click. That don't work. I don't even know where the windup is. Secondly, he says that they don't love football.
Oh, okay.
This is a
I can't even comment on that.
This is a statement I say on many occasions, right? Who are you? And this is me and you too. Nobody is all high and mighty enough to tell another person how they feel. We don't have that unless we are God and Jesus Christ. We cannot genuinely see the soul of another person. So how are you going to decide that those kids don't love football? And here's the thing. Okay, they don't love football. Maybe a couple of them don't. I'm sure there are a couple of them don't. They went to play at Rutgers because they got to play two sport athletes, right? Whatever. Okay, you created the bowl games for them to go to. Like, you created the bowl game for these kids that apparently don't like football to go to and play. For your entertainment, for your amusement, for you to be able to sit up there on Saturday game day and get paid. Okay. So for them to say that, it goes back to this conversation of what this all about is how do we define toughness in today's sports arena, right? Because basically what he's saying is they're soft, right? We did it better. We did it.
And entitled.
We did it. Right? We did it better. We love football more. We love sports more. We sacrificed more. Well, trust me, Schaefer Suggs' generation probably thinks you guys are soft. And they sacrificed more. And they hit harder. And the rules were tougher. Right? Each generation is going to think they did it better than the next generation. Right? We look at Charles Barkley continuously says these players couldn't play during our time period because we were overly physical. Right? And then you got Bill Lambier who says, are you kidding me? Chuck, come down here. Right? And then you have Bill Russell, and they're saying Bill Russell wasn't great because Bill Russell did everything. There's we do this, right? We do this as competitors, right? Because we want our level of play to always be the highest level of play. That keeps us relevant. It keeps those men on the panel relevant, right? When we played in a bowl game, we did this. Guys, it's okay. Scoot over. The game is evolving. The game is changing. You provided 25 plus bowl games. It's okay, right? It's okay. And just because they don't want to play in a bowl game, and now we're finally getting to the point of it all because I'm very upset about this. But now that we're getting to the point of all, just because they don't want to play in the bowl game does not mean they don't love football. Matter of fact, I think it means they love football more because they want an opportunity to play for the 3.5 average years in the NFL.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
Yeah. Very good point.
What do you think?
I
From your age, from your generation, from how you played football, what do you think?
Well, it's very different. You know, when I played, it was an honor to play in the All-Star games because it was the important game that you needed to bring your draft value up. It was very different.
Right.
the purpose of the game, because we didn't have combines. You know, so if you were invited to a bowl game, you got a chance to be looked at by coaches. So the East West Shrine game, the Senior Bowl, the Hula Bowl, the All-Star game was played after all that. After you were drafted.
Right,
It was like
right. After you're drafted, which isn't allowed. They don't do that.
Yeah. So, but there was so many reasons why they stopped, because one place they want to, you know, but those All-Star games, the Rose Bowl was very different. The Cotton Bowl, there was only 4 or 5 major bowl games, and they were very different. You know, the economics were not, the branding was not, none of that existed.
Right. For maybe the guys, maybe.
Right. So now, it's interesting enough, you talk about this. My senior year, people know this. You know, I decided not to play basketball my senior year because I wanted to focus on football. I got a chance to play in the Senior Bowl. In the Senior Bowl, we actually got $1,500. And I played in it, and I came back, and I decided I wanted to play basketball. And everybody was like, oh, great, you play football. I found out that the NCAA had not sanctioned that game because I got paid, and I didn't get a chance to play my senior year. That was my beginning of getting paid and being penalized because I got paid.
For something
Right. So
the NCAA had their hand under the table for that.
Exactly. What was the significance of me getting $1,500 in a game, in a college game, right? That was making, at that time, maybe $1 million, right?
Yeah.
That game was an important game because every coach in the NFL, every head coach in the NFL game was at that game. You didn't play in that game, you did not get drafted in the first or second or third round. Simple as that.
Right. Do you see all the things, and this is one of my points with this, is all of these opportunities you had during this generation was necessary. And in the moment of their generation, it was necessary they played in those bowl games.
It was.
Right? Them playing in those bowl games is the difference between 15 and 10, right? Or 15 and 14. It's the difference between you going to Buffalo and then you going to Miami.
Right.
But now, because we have gotten better, we have advocated so much for athletes to be able to take control of their careers, which we should have, right? It's not possible for them to have that pressure on them unless it's ultimately necessary, right? The quarterback at Alabama, let's go back to Jalen Hurts. Let's go back to that time period. Let's go back to those quarterbacks coming out, right? They played in those games because it was a national championship, right? That makes sense, right? It don't make sense to go play in the Tostitos Bowl. It does not make sense. You go and play in the Tostitos Bowl, your first catch, whatever, roll your ankle. Turns out you pulled the ligament and it has to have surgery and you're out for 6 months. What are you missing? Combine. What are you missing?
Millions and millions of dollars. That's what you're missing.
What are you missing? Key moments in your developmental career to get you from NCAA football to professional football, which is one of the most cutthroat sports in America.
So let me share something with you, Faith. The technology, the recruiting, the visibility that these college coaches have on college athletes right now is even before those bowl games, these players know where they're going to go. So already knowing that you're going to get drafted, why jeopardize that opportunity? Knowing that he's projected to go number 2 at the draft. Okay, unless it's a national championship game, right? You know, but if it's not, if it's one of those games that are not, even, you know, you got to make a business decision, and that's the difference. It's a business decision now.
It's a business decision, and that's what I want to talk about. Is where does the term toughness lie in college sports and sports in general in today's society? Right? We see more NBA players take games off for rest than we ever have before. We see more student athletes decide to sit out games for cramping, for a rolled ankle, right? There's no more push through the pain to compete, right? Because if it's not logical pain, we're not doing it, right? Because now not only are we looking at it as a business decision, we're looking at it, and am I going to be able to walk up my steps in 20 years, right? Am I going to be able to pick my kids up? Am I going to be play basketball in the driveway? Or is it all worth it that I got to play the one more catch in my sophomore? You know what I mean? It's just, we are weighing the pros and cons of what toughness means. And I think that toughness now is more at an intersection of intelligence and craftiness than it ever has before. Because it's not just these student athletes now thinking business, long-term goals. It's now they have family members who are up to terms with what's going on. Why should that kid not play, right? It's agents. They have already hired agents at this point, right? They're allowed to have representation now that NIL is open. So these student athletes have actual representatives having conversations with them as well, right? So it's not just them. They're not a dumb kid, right? And I think that's easy for us to do. We always treat these 18 to 22-year-olds like they're kids. They're not kids. They're having big boy conversations, right? They're sitting down with financial advisors. They're having conversations with representatives. They're having conversations. They're sitting across from Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Nike, right? They're adults, right? And they're very capable of making these decisions. And it's not our place to tell them to play, to not to play. It's not our place to call them tough or not tough, right? It's not, right? Because it's their life. And it's easy for us to sit up on that panel and judge people. And this is in all forms of life. It's easy for us to judge people because of what we've been through. Just because you've walked through trauma does not mean that everybody else should walk through trauma. That's not how that life needs to work, right? And I think that that's one of the biggest things that we struggle with in society, beyond sports, beyond all of this, right? We, for some reason, can't stand that everybody has an opinion or perspective or has a way they want to live their life that is not the way we want to do it or the way we have done it or we play. And that right there is such big levels of ignorance and lack of maturity. And this is not saying they're bad, stupid, immature men. That's not what that is. But it's more along the lines of, like I said earlier in the show, it's our opportunity to grow. This is an opportunity for us to grow with what these younger generations, Generation Z, what they're pushing forward is now they're a lot more smarter and conscious of the long term than ever before.
Yeah. I even noticed and experienced in the last couple of years, high school athletes who got hurt their senior year, opting out of playing in games so they didn't jeopardize their college scholarships.
Because a college scholarship now is worth millions of dollars.
Yes.
Because
with
now
the NIL, which so for families who are watching, NIL is name, image, and likeness. So, which has changed the landscape of college sports, amateur sports, right? So,
right. Yes. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And you know what's interesting is I think that there's a lot of bitterness and jealousy surrounding not just NIL, right? Now that the student athletes can make money. We had this conversation about name, image, likeness. This new generation has so much control, right, over their playing career. They don't get to control if they play or not, but they get to control who do they work for? Where do they want to make money? When can they play? When do they want to play? Right? The bowl game, at the end of the day, everyone knows is the end of the season. The season's over, right? The practices you're having are probably full of kickball. That's just that. For people who have played in college sports, they know the postseason is fun time. It's roll the balls out and have fun because you've done the work. You're at the point of the end of the season. Okay. So the fact these student athletes, we're not in. I'm trying to wrap the mental preparation for these end of season games is nowhere near what it once was. It's more kind of like, guys, you worked hard. Good job. Let's just go out there and have fun. That's right. Obviously you want to win, but it's more, we've already got our $25,000 bonuses, right? Go out there and have fun. And so the fact these student athletes are making the decision to be like, I don't know if this is smart for me because I have the mock draft has me at 4 going to Miami or to New York, right? I don't think that's smart for me. It's not smart for you. We've seen so many. Think about how many athletes get carted off or have to limp or training staff has to come into the game in a single football game.
Yeah.
Just think about it.
It happens every game.
Right? Especially when we're talking about football.
Right.
And so we got to let it go. We got to let that feeling of because we did it one way, they should do it that way. And because they don't do it that way, the way that we did it, we're better than them and they're not better than us. We have to let that go.
Well, for sure, it's changing. It has changed. And you're going to have some that will have a hard time with accepting the change. The reality is it is changing.
Change is happening. If you don't, and we keep saying this, if you don't jump on the train, you're going to miss out on a lot, because this Generation Z is different, right? They are different. And if you guys haven't gotten the opportunity to watch the TED Talk yet by Candace Parker, she touches on some amazing topics about how her daughter and that generation is teaching her and teaching us so much about how to treat one another, how to advocate for one another, how to make decisions for ourselves over others, right? It's just, they're so ahead of us in how to live this life. We have so much to learn from them, right? And it's amazing, right? They're telling us what stores not to shop at because it's not gender and body conscious. They're telling us not to go eat Coca-Cola anymore, right? There's all these things they're educating us on, and with this, our opportunity to grow, right? At 25, I can grow. At 45, Schaefer Suggs, you can grow, right? We all have the opportunity to grow, and so it's just, really tap into what's going on around you and what's
happening. You said 45. I love you so much.
I was just trying to be kind. Everybody knows how old you are. But yeah, so wonderful show, wonderful discussion. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope everyone has a wonderful Martin Luther King Jr. Day. What you can do today is read a book, find a documentary, find a children's book. There's many of them. Read them to your kids, read them to your family members, give someone a call, have a good discussion. So many things we could do.
Yes.
So everyone, welcome. Thank you again for joining us at Faith Family Focus. Once again, we use our faith and our stories to strengthen the family core of those around us. And of course, our slogan:
let go, let God, let go, let faith, and let go, let love. And
officially, we have a new top 25 rankings for NCAA men's basketball. So everyone go check that out. It's very interesting. See you guys soon.